Simon Vincett of Ride On magazine. Last week, the Bike Snob of New York City was in Australia for the Melbourne Writers Festival, talking about his third Bike Snob abroad. I caught up with him for a ride and sat down for a chat about the urban cycling explosion, what needs to be done to get more people cycling, and the love that's underneath the merciless criticism of Bike Snob NYC. Check it out.
People will know you as the Bike Snob New York City, the blogger predominantly.
Yes. Yeah.
What started you blogging?
I was always a writer of some kind, and I have always been a cyclist and deeply into cycling. And around the time I started my blog was when the sort of, I guess we're still in it, this, I don't know what you want to call it, this urban cycling explosion and all this cycling kind of weaving itself into the popular culture and becoming trendy and all the rest. So all that stuff was starting to happen, and it was becoming very visible. And as an old crotchety person who had been in cycling for a long time, I had a lot of stuff running around my head. So
Yeah, I get the feeling that as well as loving cycling and writing, you also like critiquing.
Yes, very. Yeah, I'm critical. That's what I do. Yeah. So there was a lot to be critical of. There's love underneath it all, of course, but there was a lot of, especially in the early days of that, there was a lot of comedy. It was a lot of fixed gear excess and all of that. So somebody needed to address that. So I took it upon myself to address that.
You had a whole lot of stereotypes in your first book. Which of those stereotypes have you been?
I have each one of those stereotypes apply to me to at least a certain extent. Maybe not the recumbent rider. Not the
draw the line.
Not so much anymore. I'm kind of getting old and slow, but I was an avid cyclocross racer, certainly road racer, and mountain biking. I do all of that stuff, so I relate to all of those things. And I ride a bike in New York City, so I fit the urban cyclist mode. Look, I'm sitting here with a cycling hat in our conversation. But I have to wear the cycling hat because my hair is all messed up because they make you wear the helmet here.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
It's good for hat makers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only wear the helmet when I'm in stretchy clothes. But yeah, so almost all of the stereotypes I relate to. Most of the blog, really, I'm making fun of myself when I'm making fun of cycling.
And do you have bikes that represent the stages that you've gone through as a rider?
Do I own bikes there? Yeah, I have too many bikes. I have too many bikes. It's time to start thinning. I have a carbon road bike, and I have all of those bikes. Yes, all the appropriate bikes for all of those stereotypes.
What ones do you use most now?
Mostly in my neighborhood. I have a Surly Big Dummy. It's a cargo bike, and I use that a lot around the neighborhood to schlep the kid around. And I ride my road bike a lot, and I ride my mountain bike a lot. Those are the bikes I ride the most.
And do you get to ride enough?
No, you never get to ride enough. And you'd think, as somebody who's a blogger, basically that's my job, is to write the blog and to write my magazine column for bicycling and to do this book stuff. And there's a lot harder jobs in the world than doing that. You'd think I'd have a lot of time to ride, but somehow I don't seem to have enough time to ride. I get out there. I manage to get out there.
Universal experience, I reckon.
Yeah.
So we're back. We've taken refuge from the rain in the local pub, keeping the Bike Snob a bit longer.
And now it's beautiful outside.
But it was raining.
It was raining, and then we went inside and got beer, and it stopped. So always get beer.
So we were talking about Biketopia, what can be done. So I'm wondering, you've done this research now for the book Bike Snob Abroad, and and you've seen what works in other parts of the world. So if you can be the emperor like Napoleon and just say we're going to have boulevards here, there, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
What would you do for New York City?
For New York, it's not so much the infrastructure or the streets as it is the attitude towards drivers, and there's aggressive driving is a way of life in New York, and to an extent that's just a function of it being such a dense place. But there's really it's really a problem. The enforcement of that, and that there's no culpability on the part of the drivers if they harm anybody. The law is not on your side if you get hurt. So I was in charge, which I'll never be. That's the thing I would address. That people have to understand when they're driving how dangerous their car is, and there has to be an acute sense of that and an acute sense of the consequences if you misuse your car and you hurt somebody. There has to be stricter enforcement of the traffic laws. That's the thing that's the attitude that has to change. It's a big attitude shift because New York's a crazy place, but
do you reckon that attitude change has been achieved in the places you visited for the book?
Yeah, well, you get the sense that some parts of the country, you can't help feeling like they place a higher value on human life. I mean, as I understand what happened in Amsterdam, I could have not the greatest handle on this, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, in the 70s, they were becoming car-centric, just like us, just like a lot of other countries, and when the death toll that came along with it, kids are getting hit by cars, all of that kind of stuff, they wouldn't stand for it. And everybody rallied around. We have to address this. We have to make everything safer for everybody. People have to be able to ride bikes safely. Kids have to be safe. We have to balance this, and that's what they've done. And it comes from a value, placing a value on lives and on their kids' lives. And a lot of places in America, that's not the way it is. There's this sort of willful blindness to how deadly it is out there, and this sort of blind acceptance that cars are safe and responsible, and then when somebody gets hurt, oops.
So do you reckon positive change can be affected?
I like to think so, yeah, but I think there does have to be a moment, and when I'm optimistic, I think it'll happen one day, when people are collectively outraged. Look, I have a car, we need cars, people use cars, but there has to be an outrage at how dangerous and deadly it is. And there has to be a sort of shift. And I like to think more and more people come to that realization. You see these studies saying that young people are buying cars less and less, are getting licensed less and less, riding bikes more and more. So maybe all of those things together might affect that change.
What gives you hope for the future?
Nothing. The future is nothing. What gives me hope for the future is there are some days I have where I'm riding in the city and you see lots of people riding, and there are days when it just clicks, when you have a great ride from A to B, and when you encounter somebody by some miracle, some cab driver is considerate towards you, you exchange a smile or something like that, or you see lots of people out riding, and you get through a ride without it being fraught with tension, and it's the days when it clicks, it's great, and you see how it could be great.